All right, first up on the show this Sunday, an important and sensitive topic. Today we're going to talk about accidental ways that parents and society blame victims of sexual assault.
We're also going to offer ways to avoid doing that. So here to help us do that is Mike Domitrz. He is the host of the Respect podcast and founder of the Date Safe Project. And it's good to have you back on the yellow couch.
Thanks for having me back.
Great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
You're a podcaster now.
Yes.
I like it.
This is a big deal. Just to kind of give people an overview if they're not familiar with you or they haven't seen you here before. You've been here several times, but give just kind of a background of the Date Safe Project and the purpose behind what you do.
Yeah, what we do is we work with schools, parents, communities, organizations and universities, and U.S. military on creating a culture of respect and consent for everyone, all ages.
Yeah.
And really particularly in intimacy, dating, sexuality, relationships up to through in marriage.
You would agree, yes, that it's hard for parents to have these conversations. Honestly, as a kid, I thought I'm never going to have a problem talking to my kids about stuff like that.
Yeah, and yet when you actually get there, you forget the kid might not want to have the conversation.
Yeah, right? I was the one grossed out. I didn't want to talk to my mom.
Yes.
I remember being like, oh, don't talk to me about this stuff.
Yeah, and that's
important.
That's one version where the kid's not comfortable what the parent is, but a lot of times they're both uncomfortable. The parent doesn't want to have the conversation because they're afraid they're going to say something wrong. The kid doesn't want to be in the conversation. It's just a nightmare all the way around, and we want to help resolve that so that it can be more comfortable.
Do you think it's good to maybe even acknowledge that to start out with and be like, look, when I was a kid, I thought, to say some of those things?
Yeah, you want to own that it's awkward.
Yeah.
You want to be able to say, you know what, this I know is awkward. I get that. But you're so important to me that I'm willing to have this awkward conversation because we need to.
Okay.
So you own that right off the top.
I like it.
One of the things you want to talk about is this culture of almost blaming the victim or survivor, as you put it as well. One of the questions that people ask is, what could the survivor have done differently? And I want to know if there's danger in that question and why.
Yeah, there's huge danger in that question because the survivor was not the criminal. And so as soon as we say, well, what could the survivor have done differently, it implies the survivor did something that led to this happening.
Okay.
And the only thing that led to this happening was somebody chose to sexually assault another human being. If that person doesn't do that, nothing the survivor did matters.
Yeah.
Nothing. And so that's where we
Absolutely.
want to focus it on because survivors are already self-blaming because of what society does. Not all, but many survivors feel self-guilt of what could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? I must have asked for this because of what they've heard throughout their lives in the media, in the news, in their family, in their homes, in their schools. So they're self-blaming. So when somebody comes and says, well, what could the survivor have done differently? And you're a survivor, and now you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, I should have done something differently.
Well,
this is my fault.
Because I think that question is asked in a very self-protective way. The people who are asking are wondering, well, if I was in that situation, what could I have done to maybe have stopped it? And so I think, the intention is not always to blame, but it turns it that way. And you just want to you don't want to feel helpless.
That's
You
right.
don't want to feel like nothing could be done. So I think what people need is that tool and that understanding, that yes, we can be empowered, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Somebody just overpowers you.
Exactly.
Or you're in the wrong time at the wrong place, wrong time.
Well, and there's two versions of it. There's the parent who's trying to be protective by asking these questions and thinking if I ask you all the right questions and get you thinking the right way, this will never happen to you.
Right.
And that's a really dangerous belief because they could do everything right and this can happen to them.
Yes.
And now they think you think they should have known better. They shouldn't have been in that situation. And now they think their parents are not safe to turn to. They can't come to their parents. And that's every parent's worst nightmare.
I
that
see.
Something like this could happen to their child and their child will not be able to come to them. And they don't realize they set that up because of the way they talked.
What then is the right discussion to have with our children?
Yeah, what you want to do is remove all the, if you do this or if you do that, you want to remove all those conversations and instead say, look, no matter what you do, even if you go against your own beliefs, your own standards, our beliefs, our standards, no one ever has the right to do something to you without your consent, ever. I don't care how much you've chose to dress a certain way. I don't care how if you wanted to make out and go this far, but you don't want to go any further. I don't care if you had drank or whatever. None of that means they get to do something more to you than you want done, ever. And that's really, really important because what happens is kids think they have to live up to their parents' standards and their own standards. And when they fail, they think that's my fault for not living up to my standards.
I'm glad you addressed the drinking too, because I would think a lot of kids are going to be like, but I was underage drinking and I shouldn't have been doing that. And if I admit to that, then they think that there's a fault there. And so you know, your point there is it doesn't even matter if there's underage drinking. Can you address that with the kids?
Oh, yes. You can say, look, if you drank, well, let's say this was a high school situation. If you're drinking, it's underage, and you know that we don't want you drinking underage, know that that is going to be a totally minor infraction or concern compared to your physical safety.
Yeah.
That's always going to trump that issue, and you need to know that. So we don't ever want you to fear calling us, coming to us because you underage drink, or because you experiment with drugs, or because whatever the because is.
Yeah, because you made
come to
a
us.
bad choice, potentially. That doesn't mean you deserve to be,
Right.
or that it's okay for you to be the victim of a crime. And an important note, because we ran out of time,
Yeah.
there's a school district in Wisconsin that published a survey of sorts of a victim of a sexual assault or crime, and they said, what could the victim have done differently? That school then rescinded that, realizing in retrospect that that was not an appropriate question. And I know you salute the school for doing the right thing and removing that from
We do.
their teaching documents, but that's why this conversation is happening.
Yeah, schools struggle with this because a lot of schools are not working with their local crisis centers who have the resources to tell them how to teach this. So that's what we really encourage schools to do. Work with your local crisis center to find out what curriculum works to help the students in the school.
I like
People
it.
can find out more about you. They can learn more about your Ask Mike and the Parent Hour series. That's for an entire year. You can learn more at raisesaferkids.com, as well as your podcast, all the stuff on there, even how to get you out to a school or a community event near them. So good to see you again.
Thank you
Always
both
great
for
to
having
see
me.
you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Come back anytime. We appreciate it.
Thanks.